Ladies and gentlemen, it is actually unbelievable that Fred Okengo Matiang'i, the former powerful cabinet secretary for Interior and National Coordination, escaped Kenya undetected and landed safely in the Netherlands. Based on the information available, Fred Matiang'i actually outwitted the security apparatus of the country and managed to escape. Because let us try to retrace Fred Okengo Matiang'i. If you've been following the events around Matiang'i, because one of the questions which most Kenyans have been asking is, where is Fred Okengo Matiang'i? If you've been following the events around him, you should have realized that on the 8th day of February, there were reports that the police had raided the home of Fred Okengo Matiang'i. His lawyer, Danston Omari, claimed that over 200 elite police officers raided the home. So that was the first time information about Fred Matiang'i, the police arrest, emerged. Exactly a week later, which was now on the 15th day, the police now officially went to Fred Matiang'i's residence and raided the home. The day they broke the doors, for those who follow it closely. During that raid, they wanted access to CCTV footages. So that was now the first time, on 15th. Then the other public information we know is that on 23rd, the DCI issued official summons to Fred Okengo Matiang'i to appear before them. And the lawyer responded that Matiang'i will not appear because he's out of the country. So which begs the question, why would DCI summon Matiang'i when they knew that he had already left the country? So which means they didn't know. And today I came across 2 documents. I just wish I could share them publicly, but because of time, I don't want to edit the video. I want to post it direct. Let me just get it. I got access to 2 documents today. I got access to 2 documents. Okay, they are here. One of them is dated 27th February. This one is from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. This letter is addressed to Felix Koskei, who is the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service. Request for document and information. It says, the Commission is carrying out investigations involving Dr. Fred Matiang'i, former Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. Pursuant to Section 30 blah blah of the Public Officers Ethics Act, the Commission wishes to request for certified copies of Declaration of Income, Assets and Liabilities forms for the year 2012 to 2022, including the initial and final declaration. Our officers, Mr. Abdullah and Mr. Paul Mugwe, will be available to collect the documents. Yours sincerely, Tualim Barak, Secretary or Chief Executive Officer. Now, these are people who are directly working under Matiang'i, but now they are demanding for his wealth declaration from 2012 to 2022, which means for the last 10 years, these guys want to see how much Fred Matiang'i has made, the wealth he has. By the time the government normally does this, probably they know what they are looking for. But that's not the subject for today. We are going to do an analysis about this particular matter in our analysis tomorrow. Then let us go to the next letter, which also emerged. And this letter is dated today. And this is the letter which is proving that indeed the former cabinet secretary outwitted the security apparatus. It says, it's actually from the Office of the President, Ministry of Interior and National Coordination. It's addressed to the DCI. It says travel history in respect of Kenyan passport number, blah, blah. So basically, I think the Immigration Department is the one responding here. Okay, this is the State Department for Citizen Services, which is which falls under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs also, Immigration and the rest. It says, your letter dated ref DCI blah blah, dated 27th February refers. So which means on 27th February, the day the EACC wrote that letter, the DCI also wrote a letter to the ministry seeking for information about Fred Matiang'i's travel documents. So it says passport number that was issued to Dr. Okengo Matiang'i on 12th January 2022. He is also a holder of diplomatic passport number. The above, the subject reported on 19th February 2023 through JKIA on KLM flight number KL566. Enclosed here is the latest travel history for Dr. Matiang'i, Simiyu, Director General. So which means, based on this, Fred Matiang'i flew out of the country on the 19th day of February. The summons to appear were issued on 23rd, which means by the time they were issuing this, they were not even aware that Matiang'i had actually left the country. And again on 15th, that's when they raided the home of Matiang'i. So Matiang'i left 4 days later. Someone was telling me that when the police raided Matiang'i's home on 15th, he was actually still there. But two things are clear. Number one, there is no way Fred Matiang'i can escape Kenya unnoticed, unless two things. Number one, he was aided by a foreign embassy. Probably he's seeking for an asylum, probably seeking for asylum, and therefore they facilitated his exit. Number two, probably the people who aided Matiang'i's exit are his sympathizers. Remember, Matiang'i was a cabinet secretary. Uhuru Kenyatta was the president of the Republic of Kenya. These guys still have their people within the system. So unless it was an asylum or sympathizers, there was no way he could leave the country without being not noticed, because these guys were actually putting their eyes on Matiang'i. At some point, there were allegations that he actually escaped via Tanzania. Then from Tanzania, he boarded a plane. Those were stories which are there. So others were saying that he traveled on board a cargo plane, which is not true. But Fred Matiang'i actually left the country via JKIA, one of the most secured airports. So what I don't know is whether it was at the VIP section, how the media could not even detect. But the truth is, only two options: either sympathizers or an embassy facilitated his exit. But why do you think Fred Matiang'i would actually run away from the country? For me, I have four reasons. Number one is political persecution. What is happening to Matiang'i is political persecution. Matiang'i was not a politician. He was a cabinet secretary who was removed from the private sector. In fact, the only time Matiang'i was involved in politics was during Nyachai, when Nyachai was contesting. And it's a good lesson for Matiang'i and any other person. For me, let me just address Kindiki. It's a good opportunity for you. As a Minister for Interior, make sure you just do your job right. And if you are to involve yourself in politics, ensure you perform it to perfection. Matiang'i just played around with Raila Odinga's presidential bid. In fact, if Matiang'i had played the rightful role, if he had blocked the rigging in the Mount Kenya, if he had stopped Jose Kamago and the group, he had that opportunity. Today, Matiang'i would not have been forced out of the country. You know, it's sad that Matiang'i, who engineered the deportation of Miguna, is now out of the country while Miguna is inside the country. So for me, sometimes I sympathize with Matiang'i because he's a human being and human rights are supposed to be protected. But there's a lesson which anybody should learn. Matiang'i ought to have ensured that Raila Odinga became the president. What happened, I'm told, that Matiang'i was persuaded by the diplomats that he just needed to let the country have a peaceful election. Then for him, they were going to secure for him a job at the UN. So he was not really for anything. And then when Raila Odinga named those four cabinet, part of his cabinet, 4 people, I think there was Joho, who else? There was Oparanya, there was Munya, who else? There were 4 people. And then Matiang'i was left out. He was very bitter. But for me, Matiang'i is just avoiding political persecution. Number 2 is embarrassment. You know, there's something which these guys are cooking against Matiang'i. And Matiang'i being a former cabinet secretary, powerful one, he has his people. You know, you can't tell me that within the DCI, Matiang'i doesn't have his people. You can't tell me that at the cabinet level, he doesn't have his people. You can't tell me that at the highest level within the security, because he was part of the Security Advisory Council, you can't tell me he doesn't have his people. He has his people who are sympathetic. So these people would always plot, and Matiang'i would always get the information. For example, I tend to think that this Waraka land deal is something these guys were intending to use on Matiang'i to embarrass him, to shame him. So Matiang'i is just avoiding being embarrassed on certain allegations, whether be it Waraka land issue, because the way he handled the Waraka land deal, in my view, was not the, you know, it was just in government. It's not the top notch, you know. Some people would steal and you can't trace them. So for me, he's avoiding embarrassment. Number 3, Matiang'i is probably thwarting Kenya Kwanza schemes. You know, Kenya Kwanza are playing some games. And what they want is to embarrass Uhuru Kenyatta, to corner Uhuru Kenyatta, force him to join Kenya Kwanza, you know, to force him to exit politics, frustrate his allies. So maybe he knew what these guys are planning. Because, you know, there's no way Ruto can arrest Uhuru. There's no way he can harass Uhuru. There's no way he can intimidate Uhuru. But he can only target their businesses. Why? Because Uhuru has immunity. Uhuru has immunity. And because Uhuru has immunity, the only easy targets are now his main allies. If you look at the last election, the person who really dealt with Ruto was not Uhuru. It was Matiang'i. So probably they want to use Matiang'i to pass a message. And this is the opportunity which Matiang'i is not granting them. I've been wondering about Karanja Kibicho. Maybe Karanja Kibicho was smart enough and negotiated this way. That's why he has disappeared. But for me, I think he just wanted to thwart their strategy and schemes. Number 4, it could also be part and parcel of Azimio's strategy. You know, when the issue of Matiang'i's arrest came up, the first people who arrived there were Azimio in the name of defending. But the government made a comeback very fast and said that Matiang'i just organized that raid. You know, that it was a raid which was never there. So if you ask me, Azimio could be plotting this to paint Kenya Kwanza as a group of people who are vengeful. Of course, we all know that Ruto is vengeful, but it could be a strategy which Azimio are trying to exploit. So that Matiang'i will start issuing statements from outside. And the Gusii community will start asking, where is their son, Matiang'i? And if you ask me, Matiang'i might just be outside there looking for a job. You never know. You know, Matiang'i, Mudavadi, those are not politicians. You might just be out there looking for a job. Maybe with the World Food Program, you never know. World Health Organization, you never know. But if you ask me, Fred Matiang'i actually outwitted these guys and managed to escape the country. Thank you guys, and may you have a good day. Bye-bye.